you, Mr. Speaker. Ask that House Committee Substitute 2 to Senate Bill 6 be read, please. Be reported.
I know it was the second one, but they only adopted one, which makes it 1-0.
Okay, thank you.
Clerk, please report House Committee Substitute 1.
House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 6.
Lady from Shelby.
Mr. Speaker, this committee sub would allow our public post-secondary institutions to return their focus to providing students with a high-quality academic instruction in an environment that is inclusive and welcoming to all. This bill would put an end to the failed, expensive, and discriminatory DEI initiatives at our public post-secondary schools in Kentucky. In addition, this bill would allow our state colleges and universities once again to foster critical thinking skills and to engage in constructive dialogue. To accomplish these goals, this bill would ensure the public post-secondary system in Kentucky is held accountable to dismantle the misguided DEI bureaucracies that have cost Kentucky taxpayers an unknown amount, but at least tens, if not hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars over the past 13 years, a time period in which our campuses have also experienced a dramatic drop in overall enrollment of students. While the Council on Post-Secondary Education first required adherence to a statewide diversity plan in 2011, the idea was that embracing DEI policies would benefit Kentucky's low-income and historically underrepresented minorities. Just yesterday, however, the Attorney General of Kentucky decided that by defining underrepresented minorities exclusively in terms of race, our state's diversity plans violate the United States Constitution and the Civil Rights Act. CPE's data proves that since 2011, the enrollment of low-income in-state students on our campuses has dropped by nearly 34%, and the enrollment of low-income in-state Black students has plummeted by nearly 42%. Clearly, the DEI experiment of building an enormously large higher education DEI bureaucracy in Kentucky has failed to help the very students it has failed to help them, the very students it purports to help. Through the passage of Senate Bill 6 as amended by the House Committee Substitute, the General Assembly would provide much needed oversight to our public universities, which were founded on the promise of equal opportunity for all, but have seemingly lost their way. Specifically, Senate Bill 6, as amended by House Committee Subs, provides the following. It provides that a public post-secondary educational institution shall not provide any differential treatment or benefits to an individual on the basis of the individual's race, sex, color, national origin. They may not manipulate or influence the composition of the student body based on protected classes. They may not provide preferential consideration for vendors, contractors, or other transaction based on protected class. This public post-secondary institutions under this bill may not make student housing assignments based on protected class, with the exception of single-sex housing and needs-based access housing. They may not initiate an investigation of a bias incident without an attorney certification. They may not hold a bias incident hearing without an attorney certification. They may not expend any resources, monetary, human, physical, or digital, on DEI offices, officers, trainings, and initiatives. They may not promote or justify discriminatory concepts And they may not purchase, promote, or distribute any content or material that promotes or justifies discriminatory concepts or DEI initiatives. They may not compel, solicit, or consider any pledge or statement on an applicant's experience with or views on religion, race, sex, color, or national origin. They may not require a DEI course or as a program requirement. They can allow the course, but not as a requirement for a degree. They may not require an individual to attend DEI training. They may not require or encourage an individual to endorse a political or social viewpoint or provide differential treatment or benefits on that basis. A public post-secondary school shall adopt a policy on viewpoint neutrality that prohibits discrimination on the basis of an individual's political or social viewpoint, or promotes intellectual diversity, and it promotes intellectual diversity within the institution. They shall administer CPE's annual assessment on intellectual freedom and viewpoint diversity. CPE shall not provide any differential treatment on the basis or benefits to an individual on the basis of protected class. They may not expend any resources, monetary, human, physical, or digital, on DEI officers, training, and initiatives, and they may not promote, or they shall not promote or justify discriminatory concepts. They shall not approve a new degree or certificate program that is not aligned with this act. CPE shall develop an annual assessment on individual freedom and viewpoint diversity for universities to administer annually. And they shall eliminate, at its discretion, existing programs that do not align with this act. The act provides enforcement for its provisions, in that the Attorney General and a private cause of action may be brought for the injunctive and declaratory relief, in which a reasonable attorney's fees and costs will be paid. This bill waives sovereign and governmental immunity and provide for retaliation against claimants and witnesses to be prohibited. Senate Bill 6 requires various reporting by the institutions and by CPE, another accountability measure. CPE and post-secondary schools must provide an annual certified report on governmentally mandated discrimination that contains an exhaustive list and description of all policies, programs, and procedures at the institution that are designed or implemented on the basis of protected class but are required by law. Failure to include an item on this list waives that requirement as a defense to an action brought under this act. Post-secondary schools are to provide monthly personnel reports so the compensation data for public post-secondary employees may be reported in the same manner and method as all other state employees are required to be reported. CPE and post-secondary schools have a one-time report that is due on implementation of this act that requires and contains designated items, and post-secondary schools are required to report on six different reports on the it requires six reports that will give the historic employment data on DEI employees. The bill also has various terms that are defined so that public post-secondary schools and CPE can understand exactly what is meant by various terms in the bill. If there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I move passage of Senate Bill 6 as amended by House Committee Sub.